The edge position, one of the most critical positions on the Titans roster for the 2025 season and one of the biggest question marks. We're going to talk through every player at this position, where the sacks are going to come from, who makes the roster at the end of the day. This is the Music City Audible. Let's get to it. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Music City Audible podcast presented by Sinkers Beverages, the premier wine, spirits, and beer store in East Nashville. In partnership with 440 Sports, I'm Justin Graver. With me, as always, Justin Melo. And Justin, today we're continuing our series, talking through all the positions on this Titans roster. We did offensive line yesterday. We talked for 52 minutes on the offensive line yesterday, so we're going to try to keep this one a little shorter just in case. We know people have a lot to do.
You guys loved it, though. They love it. We had a comment said we love the longer pods. It's been like the second best performing video of the entire series. You guys tuned in for all 52 minutes. We appreciate that.
Yeah, we do appreciate that. So if you're tuning in again today, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like the video, drop your thoughts in a comment below about the edge position. Who leads the Titans in sacks? That's the question of the episode here. So drop your thoughts on who leads the Titans in sacks in the comments below. And Justin, today we're going to preview this edge position as we look ahead to training camp. Titans report a week from today-ish, depending on when you're listening to this. The episode comes out Monday night, but it's really the Tuesday episode. So a week from Tuesday, the Titans will be reporting to training camp. We're almost there. We got a few more positions to talk through. Edge today, running back tomorrow, linebacker the next day, and finally we'll finish this up with quarterbacks. But on the edge position, Titans have 8 guys in the room. Now, on your latest 53-man roster projection, which granted was about almost a month ago now, you had 5 outside linebacker / edge players making the roster. So we'll talk through if we think that's still the number and which 5 guys make it. There are 8 guys in the room, as I said. Dre'Mont Jones, who they brought in this year in free agency. Arden Key, who is the leader, the sack leader that returns to the Titans. He wasn't their sack leader last year, but if, given everyone who left, he's now the sack leader that's still here. Femi Oladejo, second-round pick, who still hasn't signed his contract. We're going to talk about that. Lorenzo Carter, they signed in free agency. Desmond Evans was a UDFA this year. Ali Gay was a waiver claim last year. Jalen Harrell, last year's, I think, last pick in the draft last year. And yes. Titus Leo also in the mix here. So I don't know how much of a shot Titus Leo has, but hey, we'll see him in preseason. Let's start at the top. Projected starters. I think this is fairly cut and dry for week 1. It'll be interesting to see if it's the same in week 1 as it is in week 5, as it is in week 10, as it is in week 17. But I think that the opening day lineup will see Dre'Mont Jones on one side and Arden Key on the other. Obviously, the big elephant in the room here is that the Titans cut Harold Landry, who was their sack leader last season. He had 9 sacks, and the Titans were not good at getting sacks last year, and now they don't have the guy who led the team in sacks last year. What, overview-wise, the edge position, what do they need from this group to be a more competitive team in 2025?
That's a tough question. I mean, they need to rush the passer with more efficiency. They need to, you've heard Brian Callahan talk about finishing their rushes, right? In terms of converting pressures into sacks. I think he had said he had counted 20 missed sacks last year. I didn't say I called BS on it, but I feel like every team can go through their tape and be like, we missed 20 sacks last year, right? That wasn't exclusive to the Titans. Titans were pretty exclusively bad at it though, right? They had 32 sacks last year. That was 3rd fewest in the NFL. Only the New England Patriots and the Atlanta Falcons had fewer sacks. And then they were tied, I believe, with the Carolina Panthers, I think it was, for 3rd worst. Now, this isn't a around the NFL pod, but if you went around those teams, the Patriots who were worst, they brought in Harold Landry, who the Titans got, of course, to reunite with Mike Vrabel. They paid Milton Williams $1 billion in free agency to play D tackle. The Falcons used, 2 first-round picks on edge rushers in the Georgia, Jalen Walker, the University of Tennessee, of course, as well, and James Pierce Jr. And then the Panthers, who are on that list next to the Titans, used, I want to say, 2 day 2 picks on rushers. Nick Scorton out of Texas A&M. And then they drafted Princely Umanmielen. Look at me flexing my pronunciation. Call me out on the NPF pronunciation. I dare you. Princely Umanmielen, who the Panthers took on day 2. You can say the Titans made some similar investments, but all honesty, I'd probably say the fewest in terms of, when you weigh capital expectations, blah, blah. Especially the Patriots paid Milton Williams $100 million, right? And Harold Landry, fair bit too. Titans invested in this position, but it feels like it was a half measure. if you know what I mean. And I'm getting away from your original question, but felt like a bit of a half measure. I do agree with you, to get back to it, that week one, it's Dre'Mont Jones and Arden Key. And I'll say this, a lot of Titans fans seem to be writing off Arden Key a little bit too much for my liking. Like, he's definitely the most talented pass rusher in this group. He was the returning sack leader, as you said, and he was second. Like, he wasn't far behind Harold Landry. Like, he was ahead of Jeffrey Simmons last year, right? Speaking of, by the way, what does this unit need? More help from the interior to make their job easier, because it's not a very talented unit, right? So that's just kind of a little quirk I'll throw in there. But to writing off Arden Key too much for my liking. I think he's still the most talented pass rusher in this room, and I think there's like a little bit of distance between him and the next guy. Of course, the caveat there is he's a bit of a smaller body type, so he's not always a 3-down guy. So the snap count might be somewhat evenly distributed between these three guys, depending on how ready Femi Oladejo is and when he signs his contract, but how ready he is. But Arden Key, I think, is comfortably the best pass rusher out of this group.
Yeah, when you look at the Titans, sack numbers from last season, we mentioned they lose 9 of their 32 sacks in Harold Landry, but they actually lost 14 of those 32 sacks if you add up all the players who are no longer on the team. Kenneth Murray Jr., 3.5 sacks, traded right as soon as Mike Borgonzi became the general manager.
I think he hadn't signed the papers yet. He was like, I'll only become GM if I could trade that linebacker that can't read misdirection.
So he gets shipped out. There's 3.5 sacks. Jerome Baker, who's no longer here, he had a sack, and Jack Gibbons had half a sack. So you add all those up with Harold Landry's 9 sacks, you're looking at 14 out of 32 sacks gone from this room from last year. That's a lot of it. So you need Dre'Mont Jones, you need Femi Oladejo to pick up that slack, and you also need Lorenzo Carter to have a better season. He had 0 sacks last year. He's the 4th guy in the room if Femi Oladejo is 3rd. But I do kind of want to talk about what they did at this position. We talked about it fairly recently when we went through their new philosophy for what they want in a defensive end. They want bigger bodied guys who can set the edge and stop the run. I think they believe that a large part of them failing to stop giving up explosive runs last season. They gave up a ton of explosive runs last year. Remember when Dameon Pierce had like an 85-yard touchdown run against his team and he wasn't even good for the Texans last season? Like, they had issues stopping the run and especially giving up explosive plays on the ground. I think they view a large part of that as not being able to set the edge with these big, strong bodies well enough. And Dre'Mont Jones is a completely different body type than Harold Landry. He's closer to a Danico Autry in terms of like a guy that could slide into like the 3-tech spot and then bounce out and play that wide 9 role. But he's going to play edge for them. He's not going to be a 3-tech. They have 3-techs. They don't need him to go play inside. They need him to set the edge and rush the passer from there. And then Femi Oladejo fits this profile as well. Arden Key, not so much, which is why we think he's probably going to be used in more of a situational pass rusher role. But that is dependent on Femi Oladejo proving that he can be a starter and an early down player, which I think is probably where his strength will be when he begins his career, because he's still transitioning from inside linebacker to edge, that he'll probably be a better run stopper than he will pass rusher, at least in the beginning of his career. But we can get to this conversation now, Justin. Femi Oladejo's rookie contract has not been signed. And you and I did a video on this on June 17th called Why Hasn't Titans Femi Oladejo Signed His Rookie Contract Yet?, where we talked about the 2 guys, the 2 second-round picks. Out of 32 second-round picks, only 2 have signed their rookie contracts, both to fully guaranteed deals, which has put up a major roadblock in everyone else from the second round signing their rookie deals.
And it's still true today. They're still
and
the
it's
only
still true today.
right?
And now it's actually affecting teams, right? Because the Chargers have already started their training camp. For some reason, they get to start a week earlier than everyone else.
Yeah,
Maybe, are they playing in the Hall of Fame game? I don't know. I'm not going to look it up. I don't care about the Chargers. But the point is, their second round pick is officially holding out of training camp because he's part of the 30 that haven't signed yet. And he's 3 picks after Femi, by the way, I think 55th overall. So very relevant. This is now going from, this might be a potential training camp storyline too. This is a full-blown training camp storyline. If this deal is not done in the next week, Femi Oladejo cannot report to training camp because NFL players, you can participate in the rookie stuff, in the spring stuff. You can participate in rookie minicamp, OTAs, mandatory minicamp. The CBA does not prevent you from doing any of that stuff without your rookie contract signed, but it does prevent players from participating in any portion of training camp without a rookie contract. So the clock is ticking to get this deal done. If you're curious more about the background and the impacts that this is going to have, go back in our video. I'll put a little link right here at the top of the screen to you can go watch that video. Just open it in a new tab and let this podcast play out, and then go watch that one. Why hasn't Titans Femi Oladejo signed his rookie contract? It's going to be a big deal. Like, if this doesn't get done in the next week, this is going to be the number one storyline at Titans training camp is where's Femi Oladejo? How long is this going to take? And it's not just going to be about the Titans. It's going to be about all 30 teams that have not yet signed their second round pick. This is a big story brewing. We'll see if these teams can put a quash to it sooner than later.
Yeah, 100%. I'd like to think the Titans will be able to, but it's you're nuts if you think it's a guarantee. I mean, when the 55th pick is not there, that impacts Oladejo. I won't go too much into it, but we had the conversation on that episode where it's like, well, where do you like? Does he get a fully guaranteed deal? Does he just? Because last year, like a couple of those top picks got very close to 100%, but it gets significantly lower. Guys were getting 70% guaranteed, 60% as the kind of the picks get into the latter portion of the second round, which is where Femi Oladejo kind of is, right at number 52. But if the 55th pick is not showing up, like the 52nd, right, it's direct impact, obviously. So we'll see what portion of the contract ends up getting guaranteed. Does he want 100? We don't really know, right? And if he does, Titans might take issue with that. Just because the 33rd pick got 100 doesn't mean 52nd does, but this might be their opportunity to think, let's take a stand and let's get every single second round pick a fully guaranteed deal. It's kind of looking that way with the Chargers not being able to get that deal done at 55. So this is definitely very relevant. Hopefully the Titans can get it done. Mike Borgonzi, Femi Oladejo, again, great agency that Femi Oladejo is represented by. I got a lot of friends up there. They are terrific people, but they also know what they're doing, right? So,
and I think that's an important thing to say is that Femi Oladejo signing his rookie contract and like accepting the terms that the team is offering versus standing his ground with the rest of the second round, like has nothing to do with Femi Oladejo as a person, as a teammate.
Very little of it, yes.
He is not controlling this negotiation. Okay, he is doing what his agent tells him to do, which is we're gonna wait, we're gonna hold strong, and we're all gonna get guaranteed deals. And he's sitting there saying, all right, agent, if that's what you say, like I'll do it, like whatever you say, because I'm a rookie and I don't know any better.
He's such a team first guy. I can see him trying to put a little pressure on, like, hey, how close are we to getting this done? I really want to get this done. Like, I could see that, a little bit of it. And maybe in the end, there's some more give and take because he's such a team and wants to be there so bad. But you're nuts to think if he's just going to say, oh, I'll take whatever they're offering because I want to be there, right? Like, no, agent's going to influence it a lot. And the agent's within his right to be like, hey, let's make sure we get a fair deal. And what's fair is now unprecedentedly fair, right? Because it's new. So that's where the complication comes in. Enough about that. We've got a whole episode on it.
Well, I do think that it's just important because of how much the Titans are relying on Femi Oladejo this season. Like you said, they sort of took a half measure to fix this group. They signed a guy who ended up being a disappointment on his last big deal in Seattle to a 1-year, $8.5 million contract in Dre'Mont Jones. And then they spend, after trading down in the second round, they spend their second draft pick on Femi Oladejo, who has a lot of potential, and we love his traits and his upside. But the reality is that as a rookie, he has an uphill battle. He's facing a challenge in the sense that he only played 8 games as outside linebacker for UCLA in his whole lifetime. He's never been an edge rusher before. So this time in training camp, the beginning of training camp where, before the pads come on, they're still doing individual drills. They're still honing technique. They're still coaching these guys up and getting them ready to play versus once the pads come on, there's still some technique stuff going on, but it's more about getting the team ready to play a game. And then they'll go through the run, like the process of getting ready to play preseason week 1 and then preseason week 2 as it leads them to getting ready for a game. So it becomes about installing the defense and game planning and less about coaching up individual technique. This time for Femi Oladejo to be ready to contribute the way the Titans need him to contribute is crucial. So,
and that's why, in all honesty, I mean, this is the boring part of this conversation that no one wants to talk about, so I won't spend a lot of time on it, but there's a universe out there where Lorenzo Carter is playing a bigger early season role than people realize, because if Femi is kind of slow to come on or gets there late or whatever, and Arden Key's not as we know, not a great run stopper because he's undersized and doesn't quite have the frame that the new regime prefers at that spot. Like Lorenzo Carter has the frame that they prefer. Like I think a big reason they brought Lorenzo Carter in, that we're probably all sleeping on, me included, is probably some of the early down run stopping stuff that he could do. He's got that between 260, 270 frame. He had 0 sacks last year. Like they might see him, you know what, he's going to play a bit of an early down role for us, especially if, again, Femi comes on slowly and we want to use Arden Key as more of a DPR, designated pass rusher. So I want to talk a bit more about Dre'Mont Jones than we did, if you don't mind, because this situation is kind of fascinating to me. Like I'm pretty well educated on the Dre'Mont Jones career arc. Like he was a pretty good interior guy for the Denver Broncos, ends up landing a 3-year, $51 million deal in Seattle. Like, this guy was making nearly $20 million per year before every edge, was making $20 million per year. Like that was a good contract for Dre'Mont Jones at that time. Well, he gets to Seattle and they kind of kick him outside to edge, or they ask him to drop a bunch of weight because at 3-tech he was 280 plus, right? Like they asked him to drop some weight and play the edge, and it was a bit of an awkward fit for him. Like we're all under the impression, or most of the Titans fans are, they wanted a bigger body guy. They wanted someone that could set the edge on rundowns. Dre'Mont Jones was not a good run stopper in Seattle last year. I do some coverage of the Seahawks. I throw that out every now and then jokingly because I never promote it. But like, go to Pro Football Focus. Grain of salt, we always say 45.5 run stopping grade. Okay. Their run defense was really bad in Seattle last year until they made a trade with the Titans and got Ernest Jones and swapped out the other linebacker too, where they cut Tyrell Dotson and made their rookie Tyrese Knight a starter. Like Dre'Mont Jones was not that's why they cut him this offseason, was not rushing the passer all that effectively, was not quite the early down run stopper they wanted him to be. So I wasn't fully against the decision to bring him in because for some reason I've always liked him. But I was a little surprised when Titans brought him in, and it's like, we're going to do the same thing Seattle did that didn't necessarily work for them. We're going to keep him out on the edge, even though it was a slightly awkward fit for him. I don't think he's going to kick inside as much as Titans fans think he's going to. I mean, maybe the occasional third down, obvious pass rush, because that's the only way you get him, Femi, and Arden Key on the field all at once. But I also don't know that that's that exciting to get them on the field. Like, maybe it is T'Vondre Sweat, or because he's the one we're projecting you take off the field in that situation. But maybe it's Sebastian Joseph Day. Maybe it's Lorenzo Carter. Like, I don't know for sure that there's all this rage about getting Dre'Mont Jones, Femi Oladejo, and Arden Key on the field at the same time with any regularity. Now, look, I said it's a bit, I'm just going to end on this quickly. It's a bit, you're coming in and asking him to do the same things he did in Seattle. Makes a big difference when you're paying him $8.5 million a year versus 17, 18, average was what Seattle was paying him. So I'm monitoring, and Denard Wilson sounded thrilled to have him. Do you remember he had that one press conference where he was all geeked up and smiling and so excited to have him? I'm really curious to see how this actually works out with Dre'Mont Jones.
Yeah, I mean, he had 3 sacks last season, 31 hurries, 45 total pressures, according to Pro Football Focus, on 375 pass rushing snaps. That was the fewest of his career since 2020. So he had more pass rushing snaps in 2021, 2022, 2023, and he had more sacks. He had 5 sacks in 2021, 7 2022, 5 in 2023, and then just 3 sacks last year. So look, between Lorenzo Carter and Dre'Mont Jones last season, they need to both erase last season from existence. They need to come in this season and be much better. We need Lorenzo Carter to give you about 3 sacks, and you need Dre'Mont Jones to give you between 7 and 10 sacks. You need Arden Key to give you
like
between
6 or 7 on Dre'Mont. Like, give me 6. I think is realistically. Yeah. He's not giving you 10. I'd be pretty surprised. I mean, look, 1-year deal. This is the end of the line for your big earnings, right? If you don't perform this year. So maybe that motivation gets him there, but I got like a 5-6 sack season probably out of Dre'Mont Jones.
I mean, that would be nice if you can get that from him, and then you get another 6.5 to 7 to 8 from Arden Key. And then what does Femi Oladejo give you? Like, that is going to determine whether this group is a complete and like the worst position on the roster,
Yeah.
or if they can be a competent group that's contributing to getting you some wins, is whether or not Femi Oladejo is a 2-sack guy as a rookie or an 8-sack guy as a rookie, like, and anything in between. If he can give you 8 or in some crazy world more than that, then you're great. And you may not even need that. Like, edge rusher right now, as we sit here projecting way out, is their top need going into 2026. And I don't think it's particularly close.
Dre'Mont Jones, Lorenzo Carter, and Arden Key are all on expiring contracts. I'm not going to sit here with any sense of confidence to say any of them are back in 2026. I think with Arden Key, they've probably, new regime-wise, have already showed you they prefer a different body type. I think the Dre'Mont Jones and Lorenzo Carter deals are obviously help get us through this year, bridge, short term. We've really got to address this position next offseason. Like, call me nuts. Like, if they re-sign any of these guys, I'm almost like Lorenzo Carter has a Sebastian Joseph Day type impact, and they bring him back as a back-end rotational run stopper who they like, but is playing behind 2 or 3 other guys. Like, I don't think it's Arden Key or Dre'Mont Jones that comes back, like, in 2026. And if it is, it's one of them, maybe, right? Like, but I like, you know, if I had to make a wager, I don't know that any of them are back. And you can call me nuts. Feel free. If it's any of them, I feel like it's because Lorenzo Carter gave them a little something on the back end.
Right. And so you're relying on Femi Oladejo to be at least capable of being the second best edge on your team as early as midway through this season.
Yeah.
And then next season, he's going to be
sophomore. Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to be your best edge, or if he's not, it's because you went and drafted somebody in the first round that you're hoping is even better. Like, they're not going to go sign a 29-year-old edge in free agency to a $100 million deal, right? Like, they're not adding a premier edge rusher anywhere but the draft.
I think it depends how good Cam Ward looks. I'll add that one little out. Okay. Like, it's such an important position. Maybe not 29, but if one's available who's 26, 27, maybe they pay huge money for him if they think Cam Ward can accelerate this rebuild. But I'm with you. I think edge is a first-round pick problem next offseason. And I actually have a way too early, it wasn't my mock draft, but I did a story on a recent mock draft on Titan-Sized. I think it drops Tuesday morning on Titan-Sized, where someone very prominent has the Titans taking an edge rusher in their way too early 2026 mock. And I wrote a whole story on it because I thought it was worth paying a little attention to.
And I like that you said that it depends on how Cam Ward looks, because there are definitely some Titans fans, and I don't think it's a large part, but there are some Titans fans who are looking around the league at like Trey Hendrickson's situation and TJ Watt's situation and saying, why don't the Titans who don't have an edge rusher go trade for one of these guys? Look, these guys are 30 years old. They don't fit the timeline. You're not going and trading for a 30-year-old edge rusher and then giving him a monster contract. Like, that's not how it's going to happen. So take those ideas out of your mind. The Titans will probably draft an edge rusher in the first or second round again next season and hope that they can develop into the type. I mean, TJ Watt was the 30th pick in the draft or something like that. Like, Trey Hendrickson was a 3rd-round pick, and these guys are 2 of the best edge rushers in the league. That's what the Titans are going to have to do if they want to be a real playoff team going into next season. But this season, they also have 4 guys that we haven't talked about competing for what we project is 1 open roster spot. If you consider Dre'Mont Jones, Arden Key, Femi Oladejo, and Lorenzo Carter locks to make the roster, which we do, then Desmond Evans, Ali Gay, Jalen Harrell, and Titus Leo are competing for probably 1 spot. That's assuming the Titans keep 5 edge rushers, which is what you projected them to do. Talk me through these guys really quick. Desmond Evans, UDFA. What do we know about him?
Yeah, Desmond Evans is a UDFA out of North Carolina. I think he was a 5-star recruit when he went to UNC. Like, he was a big deal. Didn't live up, right? That's why he's never produced at North Carolina at the clip that was expected of him. But, it's a UDFA. When you're a former 5-star recruit, there's obviously some untapped potential athleticism there. The Titans will try to bring that out of him in training camp and throughout the preseason. I mean, he's got a shot, right? Like, when you look at what he's up against, he's got a shot because there's not much else, right? Ali Gay was here last year, was a waiver claim. The same time they claimed Darrell Baker, I believe. So right at the end of the preseason, when they claimed Darrell Baker Jr., right after finalizing their initial 53-man roster, they claimed Ali Gay. Did he give them anything? I mean, he's big, he's long, he's strong. He gave them some reps. There's some like moldable, he's a piece of moldable clay, they felt.
He did have a sack. He had one sack last season.
When I said that he give them anything, I didn't mean quite literally. I still would say he didn't give them anything, in all honesty, but he's in the mix there again, some untapped potential. Jalen Harrell is the one who I had making the roster. I mean, in all honesty, dart throw, like, I'll put it this way. He was my 53rd guy, I think, on the roster when I did that exercise. And I came really close to only keeping 4. Just like they claimed Ali Gay last year, this is one of the positions near the top where they should probably look to claim someone, because I don't know if you remember when they took Jalen Harrell, it was like maybe they got a steal in the 7th round, and I think he had a couple good like practices in training camp, and we all got way ahead of ourselves. I
think he had a 2-sack preseason game.
Yes, he did. Like, there was preseason and training camp. Fast forward to the regular season. Wes, our buddy Wes Wisley, former Broadway sports alum at Titan Stats on X, Twitter, whatever you call it, hit me with this stat where he was the least efficient pass rusher in the NFL last year. Like, literally, like, I think minimum qualifier, like 100, 150 snaps, whatever it was, 200 snaps. He had like the lowest efficiency rate. Like, there was no sacks, and I don't know how many pressures he had, but I think it was under 10. It was brutal. Like, he did nothing for them last year. Like, I kept him because sophomore 7th round pick out of, like, I can't even give you a good reason, in all honesty. Like, sophomore 7th round pick out of Michigan, showed some promise in the preseason camp last year. He showed zero promise during the regular season. And like a guy like Desmond Evans and Ali Gay, like, this should honestly be like a pretty even battle between the three of them for that 5th and final spot. And Mike Borgonzi should be working that waiver claim hard to find one that's better than them, and he might be able to do it.
I just looked at the PFF grades for edge rushers. This is every edge rusher in the NFL, 211 of them that played last season, and this is not a minimum qualifier.
No, it's all of them.
And I sorted by pass rush grade on PFF, which, granted, grain of salt, PFF, disclaimer, whatever. Jalen Harrell was 210th out of 211. Lorenzo Carter was 203rd out of 211. Even Harold Landry was not particularly good. He was 197th out of 211.
That's why they cut him, right? Like 9 sacks, but we knew the down-to-down efficiency was no longer there, and it didn't justify the cap.
Ali Gay, 185th out of 211. You want to know why the Titans had the 3rd fewest sacks last season? It's because their pass rushers weren't good at rushing the passer. You mentioned a couple guys
who weren't even there, so now there's also reason why you should be concerned going into this year too, in all honesty, right? Like, you should be really concerned about this group. I'm not that optimistic about it.
I mentioned one guy who wasn't there, in Lorenzo Carter, who you said is here now to be an early down run stuffer, and you're not going to rely on him.
I'm projecting a little bit when I say that. I just,
it's
there
because
wasn't a lot of sack production.
Because he ranked 203rd of all edge rushers in pass rush grade for PFF. I actually, if I were to pick one of these 4 guys, Desmond Evans, Ali Gay, Jalen Harrell, Titus Leo, that I think could get the 5th spot, I actually think it's Ali Gay. And that's based a little bit on how he played last year. I mean, he had that 1 sack. Look, you're working with hope. You're hoping that one of these guys has traits that you can develop. Not like, this isn't a good player that you don't have room for at the top of the depth chart. This is hopefully somebody can turn into a useful player for a handful of snaps a game, or a handful of games if somebody gets injured. And I agree with you. I think this is, like we talked about it yesterday with the offensive line, that it was the most likely position that they would claim in waivers if they made a waiver claim this year. I think this position edge is right up there. If anyone potentially developmental useful gets cut at that final roster cutdown day, this is potentially where the Titans are going to go try to add the 5th player, and it could just be the 4 guys we talked about at the top of the show, and the other 4 aren't irrelevant to the 2025 season because none of them end up making the roster.
Right. So I want to quickly add, talking about potential traits, yada, yada. Desmond Evans, I confirmed, 5-star recruit when he went to North Carolina. Career high 5 sacks last year, 10 tackles for loss. Right. So I guess, I mean, he's right. Like, we're talking about Jalen Harrell and Ali Gay here, right? Like, Desmond Evans is in that mix. Titus Leo actually got drafted because he's the only one I didn't mention at all. 6th round, 2023, got drafted by the Colts and was there for 2023 and a portion of 2024, then went to New England. So he's been around a little bit, obviously, right? 2 teams, yada, yada. He joined the Titans right after the draft, actually, this year, April 29th. So right in around there, right? Like they claimed him off waivers right after the draft, essentially. So he's the other guy in the mix there. I'll end this by saying I think anyone, you're kind of nuts if you think you know for sure how this rotation is going to work out. I think it's pretty clear that Dre'Mont, Jones, Arden, Key, and Femi are their top 3, but most of the time, only 2 of them are going to be on the field. Which combination of the 2, I think, is anyone's guess, and I think you're full of shit you're lucky if you guess correctly. I think Lorenzo Carter probably has an underrated chance to, again, play like an early down run-stopping role. He had 0 sacks last year. He does have 3 seasons under his belt where he had 4+ sacks. So it's not like he's never sacked a quarterback in his life, right? Like he's like a 7-year pro, and he's got 3-4 sack seasons under his belt. So like maybe he gets into the mix and chips in a bit more than we're expecting. And I could see the route to him being like a decent early down run guy.
And if he was 207th or whatever I said out of 211 in pass rush grade, he was 150th in run stop grade by PFF, which is not great, but it's a hell of a lot better than he was.
There's like 60 guys who were worse, right? So it's like, we'll see kind of thing. So that's where I'm at with this room. You talked about like it's what they get out of Femi Oladejo is key. I'm not disagreeing with you, but it's also really key what they get out of Dre'Mont Jones and Lorenzo Carter, in all honesty, because I don't say that with Arden Key because I'm pretty confident in what I'm going to get out of Arden Key. Whereas with Dre'Mont Jones, Femi, and Lorenzo Carter, it's like anyone's guess, in all honesty.
And Femi, I say that about Femi because he has the biggest ceiling. He has the highest ceiling out of anyone in this room. He's the only, in my opinion, and obviously anything can happen, he has the best chance to be a 10-sack guy. I'm not saying this season, but in terms of being a guy that can go get you on average between 10 and 12 sacks in a year, like none of these other guys have ever been that. Ever in their careers. And Femi at least has a chance to be that. So that's why I think it's dependent on how if he's like a good pass rusher that the other team has to double team and like actually can use his traits and get them developed and refined technique wise, like he could be the X factor of the season for this like if this Titans team ends up competing for the division, if we're going into week 18, like winner of this game, Titans game wins the division, which would be a massive overachievement for where this team is at and where everyone projects them to be. I think the biggest reason, aside from Cam Ward being good, is because Femi Oladejo was also good. Like it wasn't just that they hit on their first pick; they hit on their first 2 picks, and that's how you turn a team around quickly. Because if you just hit on Cam Ward, you might be competitive, but if you are asking this rookie to put up 30, 35 points a week just to stay in games because you have no pass rush, then you're not going to be winning a lot of those games. And that's why I think Femi Oladejo is like the second most important Titan behind Cam Ward in terms of like if they actually want to, because for the most part, we know the range of outcomes for what we're expecting for most players is fairly small range. The range of outcomes for Femi Oladejo is 0 sacks to 11 sacks. And it's like literally, as you said, anyone's guess where he falls there. So that's why I think he's such a big X factor. I'm not trying to overstate like his importance to the team.
Right.
But if they're good, he has to be good or they won't be good. I kind of feel that way.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, especially like what you said about long-term projection, because based on opportunity in this room and skill set, like it wouldn't shock me if Arden Key flirts with 10 sacks this year. He's probably a 6.5 to 8.5 sack guy, but 8.5 is certainly flirting with 10. Even 7, you're flirting with 10 sacks. So maybe from across the room, but you're flirting with 10 sacks. So
just giving him eyes.
Yeah, he's giving him the eyes, but we'll see. But yeah, I think solid episode, by the way, really tight. I didn't think we could do this in 30 minutes, but this is a great length for this episode, I think, with Edge. And this is the biggest, it's the most unpredictable position group on the entire roster. And I will say that it's the biggest X factor because it's the second or third most position group on not on every NFL roster. And if it's really bad, which some people fear it will be, there's a pretty good chance. Like look at all the Titans were bad at it last year. They were really bad. I'm going by sack numbers, right? It's fair. Carolina Panthers were bad at it last year. They were really bad. New England Patriots were worse in the league. They were really bad. Atlanta Falcons were bad and they missed the playoffs. Your week one opponent, the Denver Broncos, made the playoffs as a surprise team. They led the league in sacks with 63, right? Like, it just
by a lot.
By 9 sacks. By 9 sacks, which is the exact number of which the Titans sack leader had last year. So it's like, this makes a huge difference whether a team is good or bad. And for the Titans, it's definitely I'm pessimistic about this position group. It's fine to be. You probably should be.
Right. And I mean, it's not impossible for a team to be okay with not that many sacks. The Bills only had 39. The Chiefs only had 39. The Rams only had 38. The Lions only had 37. That's 4 playoff teams that had less than 40 sacks.
Like, you heard all year about Braden Fisk, Jared Ver, all the rookies, like how great they were. They only had, what'd you say? So they had 7 more sacks than the Titans did?
Yeah. And the Lions had 30.
Wilson. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sure some of that had to do, tip of the cap to Denard Wilson. Like, I'm sure if they're good this year, he's got a tough job. And I do have full confidence in Denard Wilson as a coordinator. Absolutely. I'm a huge fan. He's probably going to have to get a little creative this year. And yes, let's be a little optimistic. There's a path to them being Jeffrey Simmons is a difference maker. And we're projecting that he should have more than 5 sacks that he had, 5.5, whatever he had last year. T'Vondre Sweat takes a slight step. You get something out of Dre'Mont Jones and Lorenzo Carter. You get like 8 combined sacks out of Dre'Mont Jones and Lorenzo Carter and 5 from Femi. Like, yeah, there is a pathway to this room being just average to even slightly below average, but not preventing them from winning, some games.
And a handful come off linebacker and corner blitzes. Like,
Cody
not
Barnes,
all the sacks.
James Williams is athletic. Cedric Gray's got a lot of athleticism. Absolutely.
Yeah. And my last point I was going to make about the playoff teams that had under 40 sacks last year, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Rams, the Lions. Well, the Chiefs and the Bills have 2 of the 3 best quarterbacks in football, 2 of the 4 best quarterbacks in football, depending where you view Lamar and Burrow. The Rams have a top 5 quarterback in Stafford, top 6 at worst. And the Lions, Jared Goff has been playing like a top 10 quarterback since the Lions became good. So
and the whole offense
if the Titans,
is phenomenal, right? Like the whole wide receiver,
they had the best
tight end, offensive line.
They had the 2nd best offense in the league last year, Justin. The Ravens were first. That's a joke from yesterday's pod. So yeah, I mean, if Cam Ward is like a top 8 quarterback in the league from day one, sure, they don't need to be getting 40 sacks to be a playoff team. But they also, all these teams had more sacks still than the Titans had last year by 5 to 7. So it's
I'd like to see them get 40 sacks this year. That's a fairly low bar, but it's not one they're guaranteed to meet, based on the projection in this room. Big unknown.
Agreed. All right, that'll do it. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel, like this video, and again, drop your comment below. Who leads the Titans in sacks this year? Is it Dre'Mont Jones? Is it Femi Oladejo? Is it someone else? Let us. Arden Key. It could be Arden Key. Arden Key probably will lead the Titans.
It's Arden Key. Maybe
I'm going to say Arden Key.
Oh, in this room.
Maybe Jeffrey Simmons.
In this room, it's Arden Key. On the defense, it'd be great if it was Jeffrey Simmons.
So let us know what you think in the comments below. And thanks again to Sinkers Beverages. Remember to check out the link to Sinkers Beverages 40th birthday jamboree in the podcast description. You don't want to miss that. Tickets just $10. You get 2 free drinks with that. So you don't want to miss that event on Saturday, August 9th at 5:30 p.m. Central Time. We will be back tomorrow to break down the running back position. A pretty interesting one there. How does the workload get shared between Tony Pollard, Tajay Spears, and whoever wins the RB3 job? And who wins the RB3 job? We're going to break that down on tomorrow's episode, so don't miss it. Again, make sure you're subscribed so that you don't miss it. Until then, y'all stay safe out there and tighten up.
A Broadway sports media production.